The true hallmark of any location is the people, those who choose to call it home. Lehigh Valley is the land of makers and dreamers. Hard work is our heritage, and it's that heritage that fuels us. Our traditions unite us. Our legacy is determination. Our future will be built on the principles of creativity and perseverance. Because when others said we couldn't, we did. Some may think of us as underdogs, yeah? Well, never underestimate the underdog. Lehigh Valley has been and always will be home to those with great vision. We know the value of an honest day's work. We practically wrote the book on it. Out of the embers from the hands that forged a nation come those that are crafting the future. Now, if you'll excuse us, we've got work to do.
Welcome to the National Museum of Industrial History's Meet the Manufacturing series. I'm Karen Mossinger, President and CEO of NMIH. Here at the museum, we seek to explore not only the past, but also the present and future of industry in America. The Lehigh Valley, with its rich history of industrial innovation, is home to more than 15,000 businesses contributing to a diverse manufacturing base. Join us monthly for an inside look at modern manufacturing with representatives from local companies and help us celebrate the people, machines, and ideas that transform our daily lives. Meet the Manufacturer is made possible through the generous support of our premier sponsor, Lehigh Valley Industrial Parks, and also our series sponsor, Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation. And with your support, you can help us to inspire this and future generations of inventors and innovators by texting the word industry to 44321. You'll receive a secure link to make your donation. Or you can visit our website at nmih.org. We look forward to seeing you at the museum soon. Enjoy the program. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us for the National Museum of Industrial History's Meet the Manufacturer series. This program is made possible through the generous support from our premier sponsor, Lehigh Valley Industrial Park, and our series sponsor, Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation. I'm Andrea Zaya, Curator of Collections at NMIH, and I am delighted to be joined by our guest for the evening, Mr. Peter Huntley. Mr. Huntley. Yes, Mr. Huntley is CEO and founder of Stargazer Cast Iron, a manufacturer of cast iron cookware based right here in the Lehigh Valley. So thank you so much, Peter, for being here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It's great. And at the National Museum of Industrial History, we are very much inspired by these stories of innovation. And I'm sure you have one about how you founded and got this company started. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. Yeah, I founded the company in 2015. So we're in our 6th year now. And before that, so I went to Lafayette College and I studied art there. And that was my introduction to this area. I'm from Connecticut originally. And after college, I did a range of different design and art types of jobs. Most recently, before starting Stargazer, I had worked for a dinnerware company making mostly ceramic and glass. And I got familiar with those types of manufacturing processes and the coordination with factories and just learning the ins and outs of manufacturing and how those types of products are made and moved in the general sort of houseware space, enough that I thought I might be able to do it myself. So in 2013, 2014, somewhere in there, I started cooking with cast iron at home. I didn't grow up cooking with it. I sort of discovered it as part of the, a lot of this renewed interest in cast iron that there's been in the last few years. I discovered it too, and I fell in love with it. And I started buying up vintage pieces and really digging into the history of cast iron and getting really excited about it, enough that in 2015, I thought we could make our own skillets, and we did.
And so I hear that there's something really interesting about your facility. I'd love to hear a little bit more about why you chose the Lehigh Valley for Stargazer, and is there anything special about how your facility is set up?
Yeah, there are a few unique things about Stargazer. So we chose the area because I thought, Pennsylvania had sort of a unique claim to iron and cast iron history. Griswold, one of the big sort of notable vintage producers of cast iron, was based in Erie, Pennsylvania. And the Lehigh Valley has its own history with Bethlehem Steel, obviously, that I was attracted to Pennsylvania and attracted the Valley specifically. And like I said, I had gone to school at Lafayette enough that I knew the area and I knew I liked it here and felt like this was a good place to put a business. As far as our facility and what makes our products different, the main thing is the surface finish. So people that are familiar with most modern cast iron cookware, familiar with the sort of gritty, sandy texture of the surface, and that's because the skillets are cast in sand. It's called a green sand casting. And what we do at Stargazer is similar to what was done back in the day, in the earlier days of cast iron cookware, which is to grind them down after casting. We actually do a CNC machining operation to cut it totally smooth and flat. And then we do a number of other surface finish treatments to dial in that exact sort of, we call it the satin smooth cooking surface that makes it really easy to clean and really easy to cook on.
Yeah, that's very interesting. One of the things, I use a lot of cast iron when I cook, and I always have.
Mhm.
And you have brought an interesting point about iron production, and the Lehigh Valley really being the heart of iron production, especially in the 19th century. And can you tell us a little bit more about where you get your raw materials from and how they become the finished product?
Sure, yeah. So just to clarify, we're not actually, so in our location in Allentown, we're not the foundry here. We partner with a couple offsite foundries, and what we do here is all of the grinding and finishing and sort of like the fine craft work, all of the finishing work, really all those details and that final surface finish work that really makes the Stargazer unique. That's what we're doing in-house here. And the foundries we partner with, like I said, we use what's called a green sand casting technique, which is a very traditional, the way that cookware, cast iron cookware was historically made. And I can show you actually, you see behind me here, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but that's our original casting pattern. And what that is it's the tooling that serves as the template that makes all the skillets. So if you picture this piece here, would get loaded into a fixture and pressed into a mixture of wet sand and clay. And when this is removed, you'll have a cavity left behind in the wet sand. The same way if you're making a sandcastle, you'd use wet sand so it holds its shape. That cavity of, the skillet cavity holds its shape, and you pour the molten iron into that cavity. And once the iron sets, it comes down what's called a shakeout line, which is a vibrating conveyor belt. Shakes all the sand off. And then after that are all the sort of cleanup and surface finish work that we do that some of the, more common modern cast iron don't do anymore.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And so you say on your company statement that you're designed for performance, not necessarily for nostalgia. So
Yeah.
What kind of innovative techniques have you incorporated into this process?
The first is CNC machining. So after that casting process, back in the day, 100 years ago, the skillets would have been ground down by hand, manually. And there's a lot of sort of eyeballing it. And you'd find that if you take 10 vintage skillets, they're going to vary quite a bit in the final thickness. And you'll find they have some thick spots and some thin spots. And what we can do with that CNC machining is dial in a very precise, like down to a couple thousandths of an inch, final material thickness. And what that means is that the skillet's going to heat evenly across that surface because you're not going to have thin and thick areas. And then after that, we have a couple other surface finish treatments. So basically, when you CNC machine something, you're cutting it dead smooth, and it's actually shiny. It almost looks like steel, like polished steel at that point. But it's so smooth that it doesn't want to hold the coating, the seasoning. Really has nothing to grab onto. So we have to reintroduce some of that texture to give the seasoning enough to hold on to without making it so rough that the food sticks to it and that it's difficult to clean. So we're kind of dialing in the Goldilocks zone of, you want it to hold the seasoning but release the food. And we have 3 or 4 different production steps that get closer and closer to that perfect middle ground of surface finish that we call satin smooth or micro textured, because we're actually introducing a very fine amount of texture that coating can fill in.
Mm-hmm. So when a consumer then takes this product home, takes their cast iron pan home, do they have to do anything different or special than the typical seasoning process?
No, it'll act like any other cast iron that you want to re-season it occasionally. We sell our skillets actually bare or seasoned. We know that there are cast iron enthusiasts, the people that have their own tried and true seasoning method, and we want to give them the option to do that. So if people want it, untouched with factory seasoning, they can get it raw and season it by whatever method they have. So we sell it both ways, but if you get the seasoned one, it's ready to go. You take it out of the box and start cooking.
So how do your pans compare with like a traditional, perhaps early 20th century cast iron pan in terms of weight?
Yeah, so the weight really comes down to that surface thickness that I was talking about, that material thickness. And what we've done is dial in what we see as like that perfect thickness that's thinner than most modern options, but it's a little thicker than some of the vintage options. I say some of because depending on the skillet and the time period, we actually took a collection of vintage skillets and we laser scanned them, and we have pretty precise sense of where they were, but depending who was running the grinder that day or anything else, they vary quite a bit. So they're thinner and lighter than most modern options, but they're not as light as the thinnest vintage examples you would find. They're somewhere in between. And the other weight variables just come down to the design features. Like if you look at our skillet, you'll see that it has a longer handle than what some people are used to seeing on cast iron. And that was just a sort of modern feature that we thought was helpful. It's a longer handle and the handle's forked to keep it cool a little longer. So we gave it some kind of modern design upgrades that way.
That's great. So you said you have a historic skillet collection. How many pieces are in that collection? I think you are a collector, aren't you?
Yeah, they come and go. I have a few on my desk here from different time periods. I have just off frame here, I got some stacks of them. This is actually a Stargazer on the wall behind me there. But how many? I don't know. Not hundreds, but tens, definitely. I don't know, 50, 60, something.
Cool. Yeah. So you said you studied art.
Yeah, that's right.
At Lafayette. Can you tell us how you might apply some of that knowledge to your industrial manufacturing processes?
Sure. Yeah. So I really come at this, in terms of starting this business as a designer and developer of product, more than I'm coming at this as a businessman or a whatever marketing expert or something else. So that's really the area of the business that I focus on. Design is where I'm most comfortable and where I have the most experience. And at Lafayette, I studied a range of art subjects. Most of my work was in sculpture, which is obviously pretty directly connected to industrial design and modeling things in 3D. It gives me a good background in kind of like spatial reasoning and understanding how shapes interact with each other and the types of things that I do now, mostly digitally, but all the same wiring in the same part of the brain.
It's interesting. We are working on some information about Robert Fulton, and he started his career path as an artist, as a fine artist. And then there's a very interesting trajectory, I think, with some artists who then go into innovation and engineering, manufacturing. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, I actually started at Lafayette as a physics major, and I ended up taking some art classes and loving it, and ended up as an art major. But I feel like my brain, I'm kind of wired somewhere in between the physics and engineering world and the art world. So I'm definitely using a little bit of both whenever I'm designing a product.
That's fantastic. So tell us a little bit more about your team.
Sure, yeah, there are about 10 of us now. We have 5 production guys, and they're from a range of backgrounds. The types of people that I look for and the types of people that seem to be the best fit for this type of thing are people that have done precision, any sort of like precision manual work. You know, we have people who've done automotive repair, and we have people that have worked in a machine shop or any of this type of thing where they have to work with fine tools. I find is a really good fit for what we do, because when you're grinding the skillet, it's as much finesse as it is technical. It's not just swinging a hammer. You really have to get a feel for the way the tools work, and you're almost sculpting as much as you are manufacturing. And those are the types of people who do really well here. And a couple of the guys have been with us, as long as we've been here, 3-4 years, something like that, at this location.
Nice. So what's in store? What's next for Stargazer for the future?
More products. Yeah, right now we have our skillet in 2 sizes. There's the 12-inch, so the larger size, and the 10.5, which is most people will call it a medium. 2020, we had a pretty aggressive launch schedule plan. We thought like 2020 is going to be the year we're going to launch all these new products. And then the pandemic hit and our foundry shut down, and everything the schedule got thrown way off. But we have a number of things in the works that I'm really excited about. And I think in the next year or so, people are going to see the product line start really filling out and have other offerings like, Dutch ovens and other sort of cast iron classics.
This is great. Well, we're so excited to have you here in the Lehigh Valley and to be doing so well with this important business with roots in the past, but looking towards the future. And this is really great. We have Megan Pilditz, who will be joining us. She's got some questions that have come in from the audience.
Sure, thank you.
Hi, Peter, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. I do have a few questions that we've received in advance from our viewers.
Sure.
First question is a two-parter. What is the best way to clean a cast iron skillet, and is there a way to salvage your pan if it's been rusted?
Yeah, both great questions and very common, very, very hot topics. So as far as cleaning goes, we say that water and like a stiff brush or some other, I don't want to say abrasive, but something to scrub away anything that's stuck on, that's really all you need. Some people prefer to use soap, and we say that that's fine. I know that that's very divisive. Some people swear that soap should never touch the cast iron. It's really fine. Cleaning is easier done when the skillet's still warm. So what I like to do is, after I'm done cooking, obviously I take the food out of the pan, let it cool a little on the stove, but clean it, pretty quickly, because once it gets totally cool on the stove, whatever's in there can get kind of crusted on. So it's easier to just add a little water and kind of wipe it out immediately before everything, like I said, gets all crusty in there. And obviously never put it in the dishwasher. That's a big no-no. In general with cast iron, I'll just add that as far as soap and anything else, people don't need to worry too much about what the rules are. It's really very difficult to destroy your skillet. Like, even if you put soap on it, even if you put it through the dishwasher, it's going to be salvageable. You could probably throw it off the roof of your house and you'd be fine. Now, as far as the rust, as long as so the skillet is definitely salvageable. If the rust is deep, it's going to leave some kind of pitting behind, but the skillet is still going to be usable. It's going to be mostly just a cosmetic issue. And the best way to get rust off is something acidic. So if you put it in a vinegar bath, mix of vinegar and water, depending how deep the rust is, and then just keep an eye on it. You don't want to leave it there too long, but check on it after an hour or so, and the acid in the vinegar should loosen up the rust, and then you can scrub it away and re-season it from there.
And in a normal setting, is there a certain number of years or a time frame where a pan needs to be re-seasoned, or what's the
Yeah,
stuff
it,
like
it
that?
really depends completely on use. So we tell people if they see bare spots, if you're seeing that the seasoning is looking patchy or that there's bare iron exposed, or if you see any kind of rust spots, those are all signs to reseason it. I'd say outside of that, I mean, maybe once a year, something like that. It's good to just give the whole thing a fresh coat, but it depends completely on use. I mean, if you're using it every day or every couple weeks or whatever it is, really just trust your eyes and how the seasoning is looking. And like I said, bare iron and rust would be sort of warning signs that you're due for a reseasoning.
Do you have a recipe for the seasoning mix?
Yeah, so in-house we use a blend of canola oil, grapeseed, and sunflower oil. And the important thing with those is that they're all high temperature oils. They're oils with a high smoke point, which sort of the prevailing wisdom around that is that the high temperature oils yield a more durable seasoning. I'm not that picky about what oils used. I mean, I wouldn't use anything like olive oil, but really any vegetable oil, if it's canola oil, corn oil, soybean oil, really any of those is going to be fine. The main thing with seasoning is that if you want to apply it really thin, you want to wipe it on and then wipe pretty much all of it off again. So the surface should just look a little bit shiny, like a little bit wet. You don't want anything pooled up or dripping off of it.
I think you mentioned this. So someone wants to know if there's a Dutch oven in the future.
There is a Dutch oven in the works. As to when, I don't want to, I hate to guarantee any kind of timeline on that, but it is actively in development now. And, hopefully in the coming months, I'd say, we'll be releasing something.
And can people follow you on the website or on social media to get updates?
Yeah, we're on all the major social platforms at Stargazer Cast Iron on Facebook or Instagram or wherever.
Excellent. I have a question on, are the numbers and the logos on the bottom of the pan built into the mold or added after it comes out?
All of the lettering, everything you see on the skillet is cast in. So it's actually built into the pattern, cut into the pattern, and cast in, with the exception of the date code. So every one of our skillets has a casting date on the bottom of the handle that shows the date that the iron was poured. It's sort of like your skillet's birthday. And that's actually sort of an insert in the pattern that every day that we're casting, you put an insert. It's like a numeric code that gets dropped in on that day. That's the only piece that isn't fully built in.
The stay cool handle, a question about how that works.
Yeah, it's just a simple fork in the handle. If you can see, I can see it. So you see the fork in the handle here dissipates the heat. Because of how thin it is this way, you're increasing the surface area and giving the heat a place to kind of vent out to before it gets up to your hand and burns it. People always ask, well, how long does it stay cool for, or what temperature and this and that? It depends so much on the type of cooktop being used and what you're cooking and all these types of things. But in my experience, it generally stays cool enough that you never need a pot holder.
And last question I have is bare cast iron versus enameled. Do you have opinions on the pros and cons of each?
I'm sorry, if you say that one more time, there's a train going by here. I missed that.
It's the cradle of industry. Trains are always going by here in the Lehigh Valley.
Bare versus enameled, and what about it?
Bare cast iron versus enameled cast iron. Do you feel like there's advantages one over the other, or pros and cons?
Yeah, there are definitely pros and cons. So the nice thing with enameled is you never have to season it. There's really no maintenance to do other than cleaning it like any other pan. The big con is that, as far as I'm concerned, my opinion, any sort of coating on the material has a lifespan. So whether that's an aluminum pan that's Teflon coated, or whether that's enameled iron or anything, it's a matter of time before the coating wears out or cracks or chips or anything else like that. And to me, the sort of magic of seasoning is that it's renewable. If you cook something and you lose some seasoning, no problem, you reapply it. Whereas any other coating, be it enamel or Teflon or anything else, as soon as it cracks or chips, that's sort of the end of the life of that pan. And that to me is a really exciting thing about seasoned cast iron, is that it doesn't have that lifespan in the same way. Having said that, the enamel is generally pretty durable. I mean, it's a lot more durable than, say, a Teflon coating, but you just don't see the enamel stuff lasting for, lifetimes, many lifetimes, the way that we see these vintage seasoned pieces are still knocking around today.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to go cook a new recipe from your website.
Yeah.
My skillet. We're so pleased to have you join us. I want to thank you, and I want to thank our premier sponsor, Lehigh Valley Industrial Park, our series sponsor, Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation. Contributions are what make this programs like this possible. If anyone viewing tonight would like to make a deductible gift to NMIH, you can text the word industry to 44321 to receive a secure link to our donation page. And we hope you'll stay up to date on our programs and events. Please visit our website at nmih.org. We'll be doing this series monthly, and we have a lot more in store. Thanks, and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.